Here.
Ms. Paoli,
Here.
Mr. Vecchio, Vice President Seidel,
Here.
President Sangelo.
Here. Can we rise for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Try not to do too much tonight, but it sounds so much nicer when there's more than 6 people doing the pledge. We have to have a full room. Mike, can you read the statement concerning open public meetings?
Public notice of this meeting pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act has been given by the Superintendent of Schools in the following manner. On January 15th, 2021, notice of this meeting was posted on the interior of the school administration offices, 1 Lincoln Avenue, Haddonfield. Written notice was submitted and filed with the Haddonfield Borough Clerk, and notices were faxed to the Courier Post and mailed to the Retrospect newspaper.
Thank you, Mike. All right, we have accommodation that Kevin McHale is going to introduce to us.
So I know we don't usually do it in the summer, but I thought this was a worthy cause to bring in Ryan Cataldo to brag a little bit about his great experience. He participated in the national debate in the end of June that involved hundreds of selected students from all over the country. He represented the East Coast as a student from Haddonfield Memorial High School. He advanced in debate rounds with his partner from Mount Laurel. Ryan's debate rounds involved competition including the West Coast, California, Texas, Midwest, Southeast, and Puerto Rico. As he progressed, he was assigned 4 debate coaches throughout the country and worked a grueling 12 hours a day for multiple days to finalize his preparation, which started in March. He progressed to the final championship debate against Texas, and he won as the national champion. So we would like to publicly congratulate Ryan for his amazing accomplishment.
Thank you, everybody. This was a very fun and interesting experience to be a part of. This debate was headed by the National Hispanic Institute. Me and my partner from Mount Laurel, this took place in kind of late July. We had worked for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday were 3 long 12-hour days, kind of preparing, debating against different students from around the country. With the program being virtual, it was, whereas it would seem like you don't have that human element of through a screen, but yet it worked. And I was able to meet lots of new people and make new friends with it, even through a screen. So the 2 skills I think I learned the most and got best at were thinking on my feet and public speaking, both of which were just very important in the debate setting. So I had a good time. Thank you for the award.
Ryan just got back from his 2 hours ago. We're probably going to speak out.
Yeah, by all means, Ron, by all means. But thank you for presenting, and clearly your public speaking is going in the right direction. You did a great job. All right. I'm not sure. You always talk about it's election season, so we have 3 new board members that are running on the coast. I don't know if any of them are here tonight, but it's worth mentioning that we're going to be welcoming Meg Hollingworth, Rachel Brown, and Steph Henschke. Are any of them here? No. Okay. That you'll start to see them coming and joining us, and that's good news. Good to see new people joining. We have no presentation tonight, so we're going to switch. We're going to head to committee reports. So Jamie is the president of the curriculum, or the chair of the curriculum committee. And would you like to finish your report, Jamie?
Actually, I have to say kudos to Dr. Merritt, because there was a very long agenda, but it was not a super long meeting. But a lot got accomplished throughout the summer. One of the important points is the writing in our curriculum, and there's more writing across the curriculum, and it occurred at all levels. So the elementary school focused on diversity units and strengthening the diversity units we already have across curricular. The middle school focused mostly on science and gifted and talented. The high school had some new courses. They were focusing on the writing aspect of that and the college and career readiness. And the district as a whole was working on co-teaching as well as social studies because we did just finish with revamping the social studies curriculum and they were working on that this summer. The Learning Accelerated summer program went very well. We had a lot of great reviews from it and a lot of good feedback. Some of the highlights were that we were joining with other districts, including Haddon Township, to increase our offerings. So we had a boat building course that looked really cool because we got to see that. And the Haddonfield School District and the Haddon Township School District worked with social entrepreneurship, which was another popular course. Feedback that we received on the program was that to have 1 week offerings, which would be more conducive for vacationing for some families, more middle school options. People appreciated the enrichment, but they would have liked to see a little more remedial courses. And so we'll be keeping all of that in mind as we look to plan for next summer. The LPDC charter, they were working on the professional development committee, worked on a charter that would help them stay the course and keep focused throughout the year. The math curriculum committee is underway, and in September, that will start meeting more regularly. The plan this school year, is to pilot new programs. So they're going to pilot 3 programs at the elementary school, and the one thing that's cool about that is each elementary school will be piloting each of the 3 programs. So it will really give us a broad picture of what would be the best program to use, and it'll create a lot of good conversation among the instructors because all of the teachers are using all of the different programs at the different schools. Also, there'll be 2 at the middle school and 2 at the high school. And the goal there is to use those programs going forward, but to decide which is going to be better fit for us. Our administrators had a retreat, which, no offense to our retreat, it sounded more like a retreat. They got to do a field trip to Lawnside, which sounded really interesting. And it's something also we talked about being able to infuse that into our curriculum a little bit at the elementary school. They did a book study for constructivist teaching and learning. And they worked on team building, goal setting, and co-teaching. There's also going to be the new teacher orientation, which will focus on communication and building classroom culture. The mentors and teachers will both be there, and they'll focus on growing their network. And one thing that we did look at was the school calendar and how our later start does make it more challenging for our high school students, especially because you have the Common App, which is due. I think they're moving up the date when that is due. And also AP tests are really in April and May because most states go back earlier. And so we just talked about how having a late start does present challenges for our students. And also that the school sports do start mid-August. And that's it.
Thank you, Jamie. Any questions?
I've got one question. You talked about the 3 different programs for the elementary school math. How different are those programs? And, is there any discussion as to, is there any disparity between what will happen with 3 different programs going?
I think Dr. Murray will be able to
Sure.
speak to that better.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. We chose 3 different programs that are kind of like the best known. So we chose investigations and illustrative math and Singapore math, and those are all used by schools that are similar to Haddonfield. We wanted to have a variety so that the teachers can really get their hands on the materials and the students can as well. And what we're doing is going by a topic that each team is choosing. So since everything lines up, everyday math that they're using now at the elementary level, it all lines up with the standards anyway. They're choosing a topic, either one that they're very familiar with and they're comfortable with it, so much so that they can explore more freely, or one that, 'cause they all looked at the data to see, where the weak spots are, and so some of the teams are going to go with, spots that are harder, that maybe everyday math typically is really difficult for them, so they want to see what's out there. But the point is that each of the teams are going to collaboratively decide which unit. Most of them have decided already last spring, but they're going to take some time in September to decide which topics to focus on, and then they'll each be using the materials from each of the programs. Then we have a protocol that we made in the spring that's just loosely based on the strategic goals here for Haddonfield, but we want to bolster that up and make it a little bit more evidence oriented. So that's going to be one of the first focal points that we do as a committee, is to try to figure out, like, what exactly are we looking for. So one of the committee members, for instance, said, we want to think about the idea of how much of an expectation of fidelity is the program asking for, because, and as Mr. Klaus pointed out the other day, fidelity might feel different at the elementary or at the secondary level. So, if you get a program that expects or demands really super strong fidelity to the program, that means that it's heavily scripted, and that means that there's less room for teacher voice. So the flip side of that is if it's not expecting too much fidelity, then it can be too loosey-goosey. So those are some of the things that we're going to be looking for. I hope I answered your question.
Well, I mean, generally, I love the approach, and I love that we're looking at different ways and then collaborating to get to a better place. And the only thing that, about is for that period where we're exploring the kids at the three different elementaries, is there any discussion that needs to be had? So, if one program is clearly better than the other two, that's great that you got to that place. Is there any confusion that happens? There's going to be a switch from one program to the other, anything like that?
Yeah, such a great question. So just like this last year with the Social Studies Committee, we earmarked a substantial number of curriculum writing hours for next summer to do exactly what you just described. Consensus building, will be the exciting part about the work that we do this year, because if we have a lot of disagreement, we're going to have to really go to the evidence. See, what does the evidence tell us? But I think that a clear like winner, if you will, is going to emerge through this process. And then come next summer, the MAP committee in June will set curricular writing goals for the summer, and that's when the summer writing will happen. And then September 22 is when the teachers will learn about the curricular changes that happened over the summer, and they'll implement them that year.
And then will there ever be a need for remediation for the two programs that did not?
We're not expecting that to be a problem at all, because it's standards based and it's topics based. I see what you're getting at, like you're concerned, like if one of the programs is really terrible at like equations or something where the kids need extra support. No, because that's where the planning at the team level is going to take place. So they'll be thinking through that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Colleen, can you just, in case I missed it, because I saw that, we're buying Singapore math textbooks for all the schools. Which school is doing which program?
This is where it's kind of unique, but also a little bit confusing, because all three schools are doing all three programs. So, whereas like Tatum has, say, 3 first grade classes, one class would do Singapore math, the other class would do investigations, and the other would do illustrative math.
Okay.
Then the same thing at the other schools. So it's, but this gets to the heart of that conversation that we like to have a lot about, the program is not the standards, the program is not our curriculum, it's just a support. And so, I think you're both getting at really important questions. Is this going to be, confusing? It shouldn't be, because our curriculum is based on the standards, and so are these programs. So we should be, it'll be exciting though. And keep in mind, it's one unit. So while we are purchasing materials, we're only purchasing 1/3 of each of the programs. except for illustrative math, because their price was just so, rock bottom. Illustrative math, Jamie had pointed out some time ago about open education resources. It's one of those, so it's free. We're only paying for like the paper, the workbooks and whatnot. So the price was just so good that we just got it, enough for everyone to have it. But yeah, that. Yeah. Thank you. Went off on a rambling there. And
No, I mean, just to be clear, none of those programs you have any feeling it would be deficient. It's just which
No.
one is the best fit
exactly.
for our curriculum path.
Exactly. They're really top-notch programs. They're just excellent programs that are used in the highest achieving schools around the state. So I have no concerns about that. But thank you for clarifying.
All right. Any other questions for Justin? Do you have a facility update?
Yeah, so we met on August 12th for the Finance and Facilities Committee. On the agenda was an energy savings opportunity, an architect proposal for the high school auditorium, RFPs on deck for 2021, 2022. We got some project updates, and then finally, Susan talked a bit about the long-range facilities plan. So on the first one, the energy savings opportunity, we were approached by a company, Energetic, which is basically like an insurance broker, but for energy. They offer, the opportunity to extend savings to, school districts like ours for natural, electric, et cetera. We currently have a broker called Analex, right, Mike?
Right.
Analex, and so we were just sort of looking at the relative benefits of something like Energetic versus Analex. They offer things like, an energy portal, the ability to pay, various energy bills from a nice user interface, the ability to see how you use energy kind of across the grid within the school district. So, it's nice to have options like this. I think the stat that they gave us was something like, I think it was 12% of New Jersey residents utilize, a marketplace like that. So it's good to see that we're actually a district that does utilize it, making sure that we're getting the best deal for energy needs. On the architect proposal for the auditorium, we were contemplating getting a conceptual design for various auditorium, including lighting, sound, seating, back office, behind the, backstage, dressing rooms, etc. The cost to get that conceptual design would have been about $14,000. But I understand that in this current environment, to look at doing various renovations, including just the estimate for the roof, was like the bid came in, I think, 100,000 plus above what we were expecting. So incredibly expensive time to do renovations. And so, now doesn't appear to be the right time, for that. And so, the plan would be to hold off for now and wait for a more appropriate time. I believe the timing that we discussed was around January going out to bids for the roof. The total cost of a renovation to the auditorium, for what we were thinking, we don't have an exact number, but it's expensive. We're talking like millions, like 2 million, 3 million. So, the roof is just a small part of it. On the RFPs that are scheduled for 2021, 2022, just like every year, in 2020 to 2021, we looked at the health broker, labor council, other insurance coverages. For 2021, 2022, on that would be substitute services, school physician, architect of record, FYI, those are coming up. In terms of project updates, one thing that we talked about was the gym floor for the middle school. Understand, that there was a lot of work done there. It includes LED lighting, got rid of the orange. Apparently looks really nice. I believe Tim might have tweeted out some photos of the design. if anybody's seen it. The Elizabeth Haddon Landscape Restoration Project, you guys know, we were working on that project, including various changes, to the landscaping, et cetera. I believe where we are now is that we started the tree removal, 65% of the sod work was done. Plants were ordered, irrigation is in, so it's coming along. I was over there recently. I think it's looking pretty good. There were, as I mentioned, the roof isn't going to be done just yet. And then on the hardscape project, between the high school A and C wing, there were some delays, including, I think, for the outdoor classroom, there were some unforeseen things that had come up, such as storm pipe issues. So that's been slightly delayed. And then finally, on the long-range facilities plan, that I'll leave for Susan to kind of brief everybody, but, we talked about things like the enrollment numbers, and it's not just about, making sure that we have the space given those enrollment numbers, but it's about educational adequacy, figuring out what we're going to do with BOE. I mean, there's obviously a lot that goes into that long-range facilities plan, incredibly important. Wouldn't do it justice by talking about it now. So I think the plan is for Susan to come and really start broaching it, with this group, but not waiting. Like, we're not waiting for new board members to come in. They can participate obviously in these meetings by coming and being present. But we talked as a group, I know we felt pretty strongly about continuing to do that work now, just given how important it is. So you guys can wait for Susan's update.
Is she planning on doing it like next? I know we were gonna have it last board meeting, and I know she couldn't attend tonight. Is it planned or
Not planned.
is it
Good question. And it makes sense to hold off on things like the roof. But what does it look like with that money that we would have to do the roof and now we're not gonna do the roof? Where does that money sit? Like is there in a fund that then stays that we can do the roof when the time is up?
The easiest answer is yes. The money doesn't lapse, but we don't lose out on it. It's funded locally through capital reserve. If we don't use it, it just goes right back to capital reserve.
Okay.
Mike, there's a cap. There's a cap on our capital reserve account?
Yes, it's a percentage of your local share of your long-range facilities plan, which is a very large number that I definitely could share in the future. Don't have.
Okay, so it'll all be part of
That's
the plan, okay.
Any other questions for this one? Good questions? I mean, those were good questions. Not that I was asking for good.
Does anybody have a good question?
None? Okay.
I'm giving them
That's right.
support. So, the policy committee met on August 10th. And we had been kicking the can on, one of our, policies because we were looking for it. And that is, policy 2421, which will be on the agenda for first reading tonight, career and technical education. It doesn't come up very frequently in our district. So, when Strauss came out with an update for it, we wanted to update our policy, but really didn't have one. So we're putting it on for first reading to fill that portion of the 2000 series. It comes up from time to time, students that leave the district and in high school and go to more technical careers. And the policy describes the district's responsibilities, how their grades are calculated, and where they fit, in our financial and record keeping responsibilities. So that's that policy. One of the other ones is we had an opportunity to update our bylaws. One of the choices we had to make, and you'll see our recommendation tonight on the agenda, is whether or not we took advantage of a way to abolish policies in one fell swoop. We passed a lot of policies to get us into COVID, and the state kind of gave us an opportunity to get them all off our books, one fell swoop. we're actually not taking that opportunity to do that. We think that a first and second reading, even on the abolishment side, is what the community expects of us. So we're going to keep that. The policy does allow for basically the postponing for one meeting of a policy, to say we're going to suspend that policy, and then the next meeting we either decide to abolish it or lift the suspension. So that's really the gist of the policy 0131 change. And then the other policy for first reading is dress and grooming. This is again an update that's recommended. One of the things, I'll use Lynn's joke, we cleaned up the policy to accommodate the changes that came into Strauss, as well as we were a little bit out of alignment between our board policy and practice. So we looked at the middle school and high school handbooks about dress code and what's acceptable and not. They had gone through an exercise a few years ago to degenderize it. So it's more, you can't have hateful speech. You can't have, drugs and alcohol. You can't advertise like that. I was pausing because one feature that was even unique in our policy still that we looked at moving it to our regulation instead was gang affiliated dress. It seemed to be kind of a redheaded stepchild, so to speak, outside of, we moved everything else to the regulation, the very specifics to it, but we left that one in. So we talked about moving that to the regulation as well, especially since we have to approve that regulation. Do we have to approve that regulation?
We do not, that's not it.
Oh, so we're just moving that to the regulation. And again, that puts it into alignment with the high school and middle school. And Dr. Russo and Ms. McHale both attended the meeting to make sure that our language matched practice. So they're the three that are on the agenda for first reading tonight. Oh, actually, there's a fourth, rules for playground conduct. This was that request from the borough about what do we do when kids are on your property after dusk? You have a sign that says dawn to dusk. What are we supposed to do? So this really does clean up on the regulation side, especially the procedures that we expect to be adhered to by not only people using our space, but the police department in chasing people out after dusk. The second readings list, I'll just read through them. We adjusted superintendent duties to be more positive and inclusive. So we talked about that. It was a really funny wording that we removed. As well as evaluation of teachers between the first and second meeting. We always wait for an open comment for those affected. We got them. So we're moving forward not only with the changes to the evaluation of teachers and also non-teacher staff and an evaluation of administrators and principals and vice principals. They're all kind of in that same suite. Non-renewal, again, second reading, and we didn't hear any. The bridge year pilot, which is a COVID specific one that we'll pass and adopt tonight on second reading if we do. And that just allows those that were not able to complete or compete in spring sports because of COVID's suspensions to have that year to do catch up academics and athletics. And then a district travel policy regulation updates. So these are all second reading items. And then a policy that brought to our table for reconsideration of timing. And as a committee, we decided to leave it like that. So we're not bringing that to the agenda tonight.
All right, any questions for Lynn?
What happened to my voice?
None? I guess we're gonna downgrade this communications committee.
I think we take it off.
Yeah, Michael? There's communications committee. We're gonna do that ad hoc as needed.
Yeah.
There's gonna be a new committee. I've not heard of it. PTA updates, anybody? Are there any summer PTA meetings that you want attended?
I have two community updates. So if anybody has PTA, I'll wait. So two community updates. Haddonfield Municipal Alliance met twice during the summer. I think I gave the update. So we just met When you understand that New Jersey has passed the legalization of marijuana, and now the boroughs and townships around the state are deciding whether or not they're going to seize on an opportunity to do recreational, medicinal sales, wholesale, all the different categories of setting up shops in there. The Municipal Alliance, and this is part of the exercise of the state, is you have to change how you talk about marijuana and teach students. So no used to mean no, partly because it was illegal. And when it's not illegal, the message has to change, and it's more like alcohol. It's responsible use when you are ready, the pros and cons of that. And there's a whole program that the schools are looking at to enact from a teaching standpoint to just change how we approach the topic of marijuana because the law has changed. It's an expensive proposition, and the Municipal Alliance doesn't have a lot of budget for it. But like any of these new initiatives, there are kind of tchotchkes and things that, visual reminders, whether that be a keychain or a shirt or anything like that. So the Municipal Alliance did okay the allocation of some funds for kind of the takeaway exercise, even though they couldn't even come close to touching the cost of the program itself. I think we approved $250 in kind of giveaways, but the program, I believe, is between $2,500 and $4,000 that the Municipal Alliance budget couldn't handle. So that's Municipal Alliance update. Any questions on kind of understanding why it has to change like that?
I understand that, but I do have a question. Giveaways to whom and what are?
Oh, to the students. So whether it be a reminder card, a keychain that has, quick reminder type of ideas. These are things that the Municipal Alliance likes to do in conjunction with the district to just solidify in the minds. Cheat sheets, think about cheat sheets, but a cheat sheet could be a shirt, it could be a keychain, it could be a koozie, that kind of stuff.
Have they, and just because I'm on the Haddonfield Foundation, has that been a consideration to possibly apply the program?
Well, I'll get to that in my next
Yeah,
update. So yes, right church, wrong pew, but that's absolutely an opportunity if the foundation would have any opportunity to do that. We also had a meeting of the Haddonfield Educational Trust. The Educational Trust just had their golf outing, and it went really well. And most of the collections actually already happened, which is nearly unheard of. I think the final number was $56,000 net after the cost of running the golf outing and the giveaways and the prizes, which is fantastic because it does a couple things. It finishes the funding of the outdoor beautification project. It fully refunds their commitment. Remember they bought all the headsets, and that really brought their coffers. So that replenished that what's called the Superintendent Fund for special needs that in the budget area that they can tap into. It completely funds the teacher grants and allows us, because it's collected, to offer that earlier. So, one of the communications that the president of the HET, Adam Puff, is going to have with the superintendent, and this might be cat out of bed, they're going to start to encourage teacher grants now instead of in the January timeframe, so that if there's anything that we see in the post-COVID reality that they might want or need, they can apply almost on a rolling basis at this point, which is fantastic. And lastly, we talked about, they set up a new fund for the fundraising for the high school auditorium. So the high school auditorium is also going to be it's an aligned need of the district and the educational trust. So they'll start active fundraising for whatever comes down the pike that they can do. It was brought up at the committee about trying to fund an initiative like the Municipal Alliance donation of funds. They have to check the bylaws, basically what it is. So at the next meeting, once we get a bylaw clear up about, it's not a direct donation to the district, it's almost covering the Municipal Alliance, even though it's absolutely educationally focused. We just have to get an opinion. And then we'll talk about it at the next meeting to see if we're flush enough to fund partial or all of that program. So that'll be really exciting. But the Haddonfield Foundation absolutely would be another wonderful avenue to get our children really aligned with reality at this point.
All right. Any other community events? All right, good. You have to do it, you know.
I do have some items.
You do? I guess I did you do anything last month?
We're gonna. All right, so a few items for Assistant Superintendent's report. One, parents will notice, and staff in the coming weeks, we're going to be rolling out enhanced communications capabilities. And you're going to mostly see that through the use of a new app that we will be rolling out in the next couple weeks called Parent Square. Parent Square will be available to all of our parents in the district, and we'll be able to consolidate all district communications in one location. It has a searchable database. It's connected to our student information system. So you'll tell the parents, once they activate the app, will be connected to their child's school automatically. There's very little backend that the parents have to do since it's fully integrated with our system. So we believe this will enhance the communications that we provide to the community. You may have noticed new formats to our building newsletters. We're using a new format called SMORE. And not only is our aim to provide communication in a more aesthetically pleasing manner, but also in a more concise and easy to read format. So we're trying to really get away from long form letters and try to respond in our communications with short topics, with critical information, and access to more information if parents choose. And this will be integrated again with our Parent Square app. So if you miss something, you can go back and search it. And we've also integrated all of the district calendar systems. Each school's calendar now feeds into one district calendar. So we've essentially brought the community calendar minus some of the community events into the 21st century. So we're excited for that. Our SEL teams have been very busy working. We've accomplished all of our data analysis of the spring SEL assessments that were done. The district presentation was done in this forum. It was last month or the month before. Our teams broke down all of the building-based data. And we always say in education, it's easy to take data. It's what you do with the data that makes it really meaningful. And what you're going to see in the next couple of weeks as we roll out our district and building-based goals, you're going to see quantifiable metrics that are related directly to the data collection process that help us establish baseline and set targets for the upcoming school year. The second part of the work that is currently being done is developing the scope and sequence of our ruler framework student lessons in grades preschool through 12. That will be in phase 2 this year. Last year was phase 1, where every grade level had approximately 4 lessons. This upcoming year, you will see every grade level at the middle and high school have 8 lessons within the ruler framework and 24 lessons in the preschool through 5 level. And finally, we are hosting the second part of our in-district vaccination clinic on September 1st here at the high school in the cafeteria. This will be available for all people who got their first shot with us to get their second. In addition to that, anyone who is interested in getting their initial vaccine shot may do so. And there's also availability for people who are eligible for a booster vaccine to get it on that September 1st date. That information was communicated today in the health newsletter, and you just have to pre-register for that so we can ensure we have enough supply and the right types of vaccinations. Although if someone comes as a walk-up, you will not be turned away. And we are currently planning an in-house clinic, a booster clinic for just our Haddonfield staff that we are tentatively planning for November 2nd for those staff members who might be interested in the booster shot. We know that the CDC is coming out with final recommendations on what's anticipated to be Monday. Outside of the folks who are immunocompromised, which is the group now that is being recommended for a booster.
And that lines up with the 8-month rule as well, because I know we had that push during the vaccine period for our staff. That's great.
And if we do it on that November 2nd, it also backs into our professional development day, where that afternoon is focused on health and wellness. All the sessions on the afternoon are focused on health and wellness, and then the clinic session would be from 3 to 5.
Thank you. Chuck, you ready to do it?
I'm ready to do it.
Yours is gonna be up on the screen.
I'm gonna come up with some, yes.
How are we gonna see it?
Right there.
Well, free to it.
So I have to probably officially apologize to everyone. In June's board meeting, I talked quite happily that I closed all my COVID tabs on my computer screen, and several people at this table laughed and said, "Why did you do that?" I guess I'm responsible for what's going through now. Just some good things today. Schools are set to open, right? We are now August 26th. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of next week, I think Dr. Murray pointed out, we have new teacher orientation, which is exciting. Next Thursday is all staff for their first day in, and then coming back on September 8th and 9th for half days for students, and then we're rolling. Obviously happy that we are back 100%. We are back full day with the full day classes, and back in the mood into what's going to be a more regular school year, although it's still a little different than our pre-COVID existence. So there's a lot of exciting things going on. I know the teachers are excited. One of the things to note, this is, if you've ever been in one of our school buildings in the summer, you wouldn't know that our teachers had summers off. I mean, every time you walk through a building, you're running into teacher after teacher. They're getting ready. They're excited to see the kids. They're looking forward to it. Really is a comment, a complimentary piece to how dedicated they are. Because trust me, there are school districts where you see the scenes out of movies when the last day of school, the kids go running out too, and they're not coming back until the day after. That's not the case here. We have wonderful, dedicated teachers who are here and getting ready to go. So we're really looking forward to having our school open on September 8th. Some COVID updates for our protocols. This is basically, I'm going to go over what went out in the health update today. But these are kind of the headlines. Executive Order 251 requires that all staff, students, and visitors wear masks. Vaccination, staff vaccination, all staff have to be vaccinated or subjected to the weekly testing. We're not doing the temperature checks in the morning, and there are going to be new guidelines for contact tracing, so we'll hit each of those as we go through. So the masks, as I said earlier, masks are required indoor premises of Haddonfield School District buildings, with limited exceptions that outlined. This is before and after school hours and board meetings and the like. This is different. In the spring, we had it where they kind of would mask here during school. The Executive Order 251 says no. If it's a school building, we're masking. They're required of school buses. When we're outdoors, we don't have to mask. There are exceptions for students who have reasons why they can't wear a mask, medical reasons why they can't wear a mask. Those parents would then submit doctor's note to us. We go to our doctor's physician for review, and then the determination will be made. We are going to be distancing still. We ended the year at 3 feet to the greatest extent possible. That's what we're going to be doing. It should be noted that in our classrooms, when we're all back in 100%, and we have desks configured and we're moving around, there are going to be times that 3 foot is broke. One of the things we've been doing, we've done the whole time, is we try to be as transparent as possible. We are not promising 3 feet all the time. We cannot promise 3 feet all the time. We would be lying if we promised 3 feet all the time. This is a balance between what we believe good education looks like in 2021 and making sure that we're not dismissing those beliefs. Students need to move around and be in groups. They need to interact. Part of education is interaction. So they are going to be sitting in places in classrooms when they move to level reading groups and such, where the 3 feet may not be in place. But we have the masks, and we believe we're doing that responsibly. It just won't be, hey, come here, gather 35 kids on a rug. And what we'll try to do is we'll try to keep those groups together so that we'll have almost mini pods within the classroom that happens. The teachers will be very cognizant of that. Lunches are going to look much like they did at the end of last year. The only difference is in the elementaries, we're not going to have the 5 lunches. We're going to have 3 lunches. We'll be outdoors whenever possible, 3 feet weather permitting, When we are indoors, we're going to use larger spaces in classrooms to ensure that we have student supervision and the lunches and doors. One thing to note for this entire school year, all lunches are free for all students. That should be out there. And the middle school and high school breakfast and lunch are free for all students. Elementary school students who we would need help with food security, they would also receive free breakfast as well. And that'll be communicated out through the principals to the students.
Mr. Klaus, just to clarify, the elementary level, there are 2 lunch periods.
Two lunch breaks, yes. That's right. 1 to 3 and 4 and 5, right?
Yeah, that's usually how the breakdown goes.
Hey, Chuck, real quick on that, students or families need to reserve in advance so that enough food is ordered, right? It's not like you can walk up last minute, okay?
Yes, there will be pre-ordering, and that'll all be go out through the
The
principals.
pre-ordering is at the elementary level, not at the middle school and the high school level. And at the elementary level, it's essentially going to be mirroring what was done in the spring as far as those prepackaged lunches. We along with Mr. Catalano have been working very hard with our food service provider to provide more options for our middle school and high school students. As far as some hot options, so it's just not a prepackaged grab and go. It still has to be grab and go for regulatory reasons. They can't just be a cheeseburger sitting out on a tray if it's not wrapped. But we are working to provide more hot options and more appealing options, particularly at the middle and high school, along with some breakfast options put in this.
Question about middle school lunch. So just like last year we actually allowed them to have an open campus for lunch. Is that?
That will not happen.
Okay, great.
That is a change.
That's I wanted to clarify that because it would have been my second comment had we said yes.
Yeah, and you know, we talked a lot with the middle school team and we deliberated carefully over this. And what it comes down to, last year that was really done out of necessity.
Oh, sure.
The way the schedule was developed, there really wasn't a way to do it otherwise. This year, we refined the schedule, we brought it back to what it was pre-COVID, and therefore there is not a need for students to leave campus. So as a result, we're keeping all of our middle school students on campus for lunch.
Thank you.
Communications, we are still going to be doing our daily screening in the morning for right now. We may change that as we go through the year, but we are going to have that daily piece filled out. We are also going to be continuing to send COVID notifications. I don't believe that's required any longer, but we have tried this to try to get these transparent. We did more than most other school districts, and we're going to continue to do that. The COVID dashboard will maintain. And we'll see later on that even though in certain situations, close contacts do not have to be quarantined, we are going to notify that you were, so the parents will know to look for symptoms. So we are going to try to really continue to communicate very well what's happening in the building. As always, if parents know positive COVID, they should let our nurses know as soon as possible. Let nurses know if we have students showing symptoms, because that communication piece is a crucial piece.
I don't think we can reiterate that part enough. Some folks might be under the impression that every time there's a positive case of a student, we're notified by the Department of Health, which is not the case. When the Department of Health is notified of a case, they don't know whether, even though a student lives in Haddonfield, they don't know if they go to a private school, a parochial school. So we really do rely on parent communication. That served us very well last year. And we can't state enough how much we appreciate that two-way communication with our parents.
And so this is the exclusion. So this is what I alluded to earlier. In the pre-K to 12 indoor classroom setting, so just in the indoor classroom setting for students only. So this doesn't apply to teachers if they're non-vaccinated. That the close contact definition excludes students within 6 feet of an affected student, where both infected students and the exposed students are wearing correctly or consistently wearing their mask correctly. So if we have students within 3 feet of one another and one student is positive, this time last year, that other student would be excluded from school. That is not the case now. Just wearing masks who are closer than 6 feet are not excluded from school because of close contact, which is a significant change. And then even though we won't have to exclude the students, we will still notify the families that there was a piece there. What we're looking at now, one of the discussions we had today, did we notify the entire class or just notify the person next to us? So that's one of the things we're looking at about what would be the best way to do communication. So there are still things that we're working through. Matter of fact, these executive orders that came out last week and this week, they're still being analyzed by the Department of Health and those things coming through. I was on a call today with the county superintendents and Department of Health. And the Department of Health is still analyzing some of the things in some of these orders to make sure that they're nailing down details. So you might see slight changes between now and the new school as we get more feedback from the Department of Health.
So
Yes.
that, requiring the exclusion that has changed in that way, is that regardless of vaccination status?
Yes. For students only. So if there's a teacher within 6 feet of a student, both wearing masks, and the teacher's not vaccinated, they are excluded. The goal here, I believe, is to keep kids in school as much as you can. We will have virtual instruction for students who are excluded due to COVID. And we're gonna, this will be communicated out to parents as well, but there's gonna be, so anytime a student's sick, they shouldn't come to school. That's one of the things we should always point out, right? Kids who are sick should not be in school. With COVID, we're telling them they can't come to school. We have a reason why. But if kids get sick, they should be home. They should be home getting well. So one of the things that we need to get back to, I think, kids who are sick and home shouldn't be in school. Not just physically in school because they're contagious. They should be getting well. Right? They should be sleeping and not worrying about zooming into a classroom when they're not feeling well. So if your child's home sick for a day or two, they're not going to be zooming into classes or Google Meets. They're going to be home getting better. That's what they need to be doing. They need to be resting and getting well. If you're excluded because of COVID, we need to provide education for you. So, but within 3 days, we will have that online, the class, streaming into the classroom and the materials given. But it won't be the first day. That's not going to happen day one because oftentimes it's going to be a very unique situation. It takes time to get these things going. Teachers not planning every night. What if I have students out with COVID tomorrow? So it's going to be a lapse. But we're also going to say for students who are staying home because they're displaying COVID-like symptoms, if they're displaying symptoms, not feeling well, they're sick, stay home and get healthy. If you're vaccinated an extended period of time, we will have you live stream into the classroom so you're not losing too much. But there's also that other side to it too. This is a lot of us experience this in our worlds, in that this world of online everything, your days never end. Your work days go on all night because those lines have been blurred. Having students who aren't feeling well zooming into classrooms when they're sick, it's unnecessary and unhelpful, right? And so that's one of the things we talked about when we put in the 3-day piece here. We are looking at, we mentioned this before, we are looking at pool testing. That's being strongly encouraged. And one of the things that's happening is that the state is actually putting out they're vetting vendors right now. They've got a list of recommended vendors of testers. And there's also grants in line that we actually put in that we would like to try to get to help support this pool testing. This pool testing, their pool testing is cheaper than just random testing, but it's 300,000 base would be a base and up to 600,000. You can use ESSER money with that. We had a lot of this something different. If we believe that's what we need to do, we shift it. We are hoping through the state vendor vetting and through the state grant stuff that we will be able to do this at a much reduced price.
Is that a saliva test or a nasal test?
Saliva. I think it's saliva, right?
No, it's a shallow swab.
Shallow swab.
Shallow swab test.
And can you join forces with other districts to pool money? Or is that?
You're actually paying per test, right? So what will happen, and it's multi-layered cost. So they pool 30 in one, and then if the batch comes back positive, they retest those. So
all 30.
Right, so there's a double cost of that pool test. So I think the number is about $13 a pool going on, but if you're pooling randomly across the district, it gets to be heavier. We'd have to look at saying, well, if we have a really high vaccination rate in high school, are we going to pool test there or just pool test in elementary schools? We took an informal survey of whether parents would be willing to have their children be part of a pool testing. We've got 53% said yes,
52.
and 28% said unsure.
23.3%.
Okay.
We're undecided, and 24.5% were not interested in that. Now, I think it's an important point that if we do ultimately roll something like this out, it would be an opt-in program, it wouldn't be tested without their consent.
Right.
And the model that we were looking at with one of the particular vendors, the swabbing doesn't happen in school, swabbing happens at home. So the student would give themselves a shallow nasal swab at home, they put it in the packet, they come to school, they drop it off, that gets collected, picked up, and then tested, and results turned around within 24 hours.
And this is something else we could use too, as we talk. If we have staff who are unvaccinated, who are going to be tested weekly, this would be a way to help out to make that easier for their world as well, to do split testing for that. And then here we are, back to our Cali scores. You can see they are rising, not where they were a year ago, but they've been consistent rise over the last month or so of what the scores look like. And the upcoming presentation, we talked about these, we're gonna get these together, we'll start seeing stuff about the arts, athletics, service club and activities, among other things. As we get more into the school year, we'll get more into the business of the other running schools as well. Right. And that is my presentation.
Thank you, Chuck. Questions? All right. Thank you, Chuck. You're welcome. And Gina. I have a lot going on for my board president report, which usually skip right over. We have two board members who are resigning, Tom Vecchio and Susan Cutner. So Mike, the process, so the board understands, and I'm going to say it the way I think I understand it. Everyone's going to verify, because this is a good way to explain it. I think a good way to make sure we're okay. Susan Cutner is resigning from a seat that ends in January. So if we interview and place someone in that seat, that person holds that seat until January. Right. So anybody can apply. But if a candidate who is going to be on the board anyway next year applies, it would be a relatively smart pick for the board to pick one of those candidates to sit in that seat a few months early. So then they would let go of that seat in January and take their rightfully elected seat, not their appointed seat. That's what we're going to do with Susan.
They would be sworn in whenever the next.
Whenever
Whenever that would be, and then also to start the next term of
Their own.
Yes.
You can't have you can't sit in multiple seats, so that will have to expire and then begin.
And that's actually good. It's clean and neat. Tom is not as neat. Tom has 2 years left on his seat term. So if Tom resigns, the person who's placed to sit in Tom's seat will then have to run for a 1 year. They'll sit on the seat until the next election. They will have, if they want to continue to sit in that 1 year seat, they have to run for that 1 year election to continue to sit in that seat. So there will be an election for a 1 year seat next November. So November 22, we'll have 3 full-term seats, 3 3-year term seats, and a 1 year seat. And it will, so that will be interesting when that time comes, because the person who was selected for the 1 year seat will choose whether they want to run for the 1 year seat or maybe even 3 if they like their odds. That's always interesting. We've seen that.
And it's always a question we ask candidates, are you willing to run when you need to, whenever there's a selection?
Yes. Because obviously, it's better for the board to have candidates that stick around for more than 2 months or a year. So Mike's going to do so that's the process. Mike, you're going to do the proper advertising right away so we can interview for those seats, correct? And has that started or not? Okay, so we'll initiate that as soon as possible. And that can be, we could have meetings just to interview, correct? Or is it, okay.
We can interview with the state code for the same, is it both positions in one spouse?
You can interview as many people as you want, and that one interview process can cover both seats that you're trying to fill. When the time would come, you would just have to vote for each seat separately. That's all.
And
just so that I'm clear, Tom's seat, that person will have to run for reelection November 2022?
Wait,
When
That's
they do
correct.
that,
So,
it's
so that
until
seat,
2023.
they would be running for a one-year term.
So they would fill the position this fall, let's say.
Correct.
They would sit in that position until next November.
Well, next,
January.
they would be sitting in that
No,
seat
they would have
until,
to
They
they
run-
would be
Run
sitting in
next
They
that
would
seat
run in
until,
November, yeah, they'd sit there till January, they'd have to run in the November 2022 election.
And get reelected until they run again for a 3-year seat in 2020.
Yeah, I just wanted to be clear that it was the November 2022 election.
And we have 45 days to do that, both of these.
Yep, so that's the timeline, we're gonna get this.
The clock has started when he said it.
All right, good. That was, so yeah, we're, okay. That, finally figured out what's causing this confusion. All right, so that's clear, we'll advertise. The other thing, I told the board over email, and I'll go through the motions again. I tell my story. You know, I was elected, 5 years ago. On election night, I found out I was sick. I was diagnosed with cancer. It's this sarcoma, very tough to weed out. And I told the board that I would serve, like I had to call Glenn or Marco that night. I said, well, I don't even know what I have. I got to figure out whether I'll even be able to serve. And I wound up being able to handle it very well and serve. And it was something about having the disease made me sort of a little bit crazy about the way I served. I put a lot into it. And it meant a lot to me. So this was something I was very proud of. But recently, I've been having difficulty with symptoms and the cancer's been aggressive. So I'm needing to spend more time taking care of myself physically and looking for options to continue to live as long as I can. But I haven't been able to make I haven't been the kind of board president or even board member that I want to be. But so I'm going to resign as president of the board. Just as president, I'm going to still hold my seat on the board until the night I told the board this, the day that the paperwork had to be in to run, which I'd intended to run, I was in the hospital, and I thought that was a really good sign. Maybe I shouldn't be chewing, take biting off more than I could chew. So I didn't run for it in this next election. So I'm giving up my seat in January, and I'm excited about that because I think new blood is good. I'm getting stale and cranky, and you don't want me anyway. But what I will say is, there's not, there were the boards I served with, because they are always changing, were huge. And I wanted to thank everyone that's here tonight, and also the people that aren't here. This is a phenomenal board. I know it's starting over a lot, but you guys had just tremendous input and advice and questions that made every conversation very full. And I think we've seen the switch over the last few years as we transferred through different superintendents of how a board can really work with the chief administrator to see an administration run a district that we hadn't seen necessarily early on, at least in my tenure on the board. So I just want to take a moment to thank you guys for serving with me and being so great at being board members. And then obviously Susan and who's not here, Susan, Tom, Lynn, I think. Anyway, but I do want a couple of weird things. I want to thank. I called him for something I needed to talk to him about. I want to say Joe Bentley, our solicitor, was just phenomenal. I mean, you remember I've been serving in this capacity for 5 years. We've been crazy first couple of years, and Joe Bentley always there's always the joke about attorneys and how they serve a district. He always minimized his billing and served us efficiently, and he always gave great advice and counsel. And I think I just wanted to say that we thank him for that. Mike has done a phenomenal job as our board secretary and the business administrator. He took that role. He's green, and we tease him about it, but he's learning quickly, and he's just been tremendously helpful. So thank you, Mike. Tim in the tech crew that made all this happen. just Rick, what's that?
John.
I mean, John, I'm thinking of Tim.
Yeah.
Tim is because of the,
Did a good job.
Tim's did a good job.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm thinking of the landscaping that's going on. But John, and the team, how we were able to pivot during COVID and continue to operate, and not as a board, as a district, the amount of work that went into that was just phenomenal. And then we brought on Larry Mussolini, and he's, he spent 2 years with us, but he was a really good setup man. And I think he set Chuck and Gino up perfectly to be able to drive the district forward. And I think, Chuck and Gino, it's been an honor to work with you guys. You guys have been, I was excited because I thought we were heading in good directions, and then we went into the teeth of yeah. And I was telling Tammy that I went into an administration meeting, board president walks in, guys, I just want to tell you, you guys are doing such a great job. This is actually a more relaxing time than some of the other stuff that went on that was minor. And they were like, get the hell out of here. We don't need to hear that because they worked so hard, but they really did. It was just, you guys worked really well, and thank you. So, we brought Colleen on, so the whole just worked well. And it's been a pleasure. So I'm going to step down at the end of the meeting, but how I think that should work. One other thing. Jamie Vermont, Corinne Welsh were the HEA presidents when I started. Then Stacy Brown Dunham and Bill Usher filled in, and then Rachel Gold and Sean Sweeney, and working with that crew as that evolved was a nightmare. They're awful people. So I just wanted to tell them one last go to hell, and obviously that is not the sentiment. Thank you guys for working so well with us. It was fun. It was a challenge, and it's supposed to be. It's set up that way. But I think we've come through a couple of contracts and lots of issues. And we had tons of issues when I came in, and we communicated and worked through them, and they were great. So I think I did a really great job. And I'm going to leave them. I miss being able to do my stand-up. So how I suggest you get me out of this seat, do it quickly, is I suggest that we open up after we do before we do new business, we have a reorg meeting where we vote for the president and vice president, and we can redo that tonight. So then at the beginning of the next meeting, we'll be all set up. And obviously during my tenure and even beyond my tenure, I'm more than happy to help out, but I will not be the guy standing over your shoulder telling you how it should be done. I'm just here if you have questions. So with all that being said, it is time for public comments.
No, hold on a second.
Oh. Did I miss something? What? Yeah. Well, yeah. Dave and Susan both served as vice president to me, and that was always good because there were always those calls where truck's on fire, and it really comes down to just two people on the phone, and we're trying to make decisions, and then you have to catch the board up because there are those times where you just have to do stuff quickly.
Hot-blooded Italians need firemen.
Yeah.
And Susan was the first fireman, and I was the second fireman. Trying to douse the flame every once in a while.
Maureen Isles once said, she's like, I think I'm afraid of you. They're going wild. Yeah. All right, thanks, me. So public comments, we're going back to the microphone and we're not doing call-ins. So the things we just want to remind the public about comments is, I know it's not a busy night, but we limit them to 3 minutes so that everyone gets a turn. You can always get back in line and continue to comment. We ask that you give your name and the street that you live on, not necessarily not the number of your address, but just the street you live on. And then we ask you to understand that if you do have questions, we don't really have the answers ready for you tonight. So we take questions under consideration. If they're the kind of questions that will serve you individually, we get back to you, administrator will get back to you, or board member will get back to you individually. If they're a question that we think that the answer is valuable for the greater community, we will put something under our news tab and answer good questions that way. So with that understanding, we invite the public to take a shot at the microphone, and we're happy to hear what you have to say. Go ahead.
I was hoping you wouldn't ask. I'm Walter Weidenbacher.
We know, we have to.
And you have to do your
formalities.
street, but I have this mask on.
I know.
So, now I had this in my mind as a question, but you said no question, so let me just say this. I'm curious as to why no temperature checking. And that's just, I'm just telling you, I'm curious about that because it's an easy thing to do, and I think it would be very protective.
Good question. On that.
Thank you.
That's it? Okay, thanks, Walt.
I have a,
Yeah, it's not your turn.
oh, so,
Well, We're in public though,
I can
right?
walk around. If I, then I'll go for it.
Anybody else? Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm full speech written out, so I need to pull it up.
Okay.
My name is Monica Harris. I'm on Chestnut Street. So I originally planned on opening my speech up with a song before I knew I had to identify myself. Sure everyone here knows Bob Marley. Yeah. So I'm not a singer, so I apologize ahead of time. But get up, stand up for your rights. That's something that resonates with me now, very much so. I have 3 children. I have 3 young children. My oldest is in elementary. And I worry about how he's learning, right? How his past year has been. And I do want to point out my frustration as a district. And I realize all of you are probably parents. I'm sure all of you have had your kids in the school system. And I appreciate the work that you've done. So this isn't a reflection of you guys, but there are so many counties across the country with higher COVID numbers last year that figured out a way to get their kids in school 5 days a week. I've called in every Board of Ed meeting. I've made my case. And of course, finally in April, my kid was finally in school more, right? And fortunate enough, I was able to quit my job. I stayed home and I taught my kid how to read. I taught my kid how to read a clock. I taught my kid about dimes, quarters, nickels, pennies. And I realize our teachers are great. I loved our kindergarten teacher, and I guarantee she did the best that she could with what was available. But having that said, I'm still disappointed in the past year. I wanted more. I expected more. As the school year ended and summer began, all my kids flocked to the town pool, Wedgwood. I'm sure everyone knows it. Definitely not very clean. Band-Aids gone everywhere. It's disgusting, but we go, right? Eating snacks, snack bar, hanging with friends, caught a stomach bug, caught a runny nose. No, not COVID, but pretty much everything else. And now summer has come to end. Here we go, back with the mandates. Prior to Murphy's mask mandate, I began a petition on change.org requesting that our district makes masks optional. Optional. Just give us the choice. Just like last year, we were finally given the choice at virtual or in school. After 2 days, not even a full 2 days, I had over 300 signatures. And then, of course, the mandate came out. I sent an email to you, Mr. Klaus, and I also sent an email to Gino. And he advised, I quote, "The Haddonfield School District is not planning on defying Governor Murphy's recently issued August 6 Executive Order 251 on August 2nd. All across our country, parents are protesting these mandates by their governors. All across New Jersey, the districts are protesting. And although the numbers aren't here physically in this room tonight, I know they're in our town. And I'm not saying no masks. That's not what I'm saying. I'm asking for an option. Why can't Haddonfield be the first to stand up to the governor? Why can't Haddonfield be the first to look out for their children in that way? Why can't Haddonfield base its decision on the science and the masks if they're working? Why can't Haddonfield Board of Ed take responsibility for the young children, the ones who are learning how to pronunciate, the ones who are still learning to express themselves, the ones who rely on facial expression? And why not write a letter of appeal? It's possible. It's been done. Parents are suing the I'm sorry, it's hard to put the mask. Parents are suing the governor for these mandates, and the class action lawsuit has begun. I'd be happy to share. Currently, there are only 13 states in America that are mandating the masks in its schools out of 50. 13 out of 50. That's crazy. And on June 4th, the governor signed legislation and executive order ending COVID-19 public health emergency. So with that emergency being ended, there's no reason this mandate needs to be enforced. Again, I'm not requesting Haddonfield break any laws. I'm not requesting Haddonfield eliminates the mask. I'm requesting that Haddonfield gives parents and the kids the choice. And unfortunately, our kids today do not have a choice. They are not allowed to speak up to themselves. They are not allowed to speak out with their teachers because they are afraid, and it's a shame. I am here for my kid because he can't be. I'm sorry. So if the teachers are being vaccinated, and like you said, I believe in the most recent email you sent out, the percentage is over 85%. That's amazing. And if the district took data of the parents, I guarantee that number is probably just as high or higher. So when I think of my little boy going to school with his teacher vaxxed, we're vaxxed, why is his poor face covered? Difficulty breathing, not being able to express himself. Again, I'm not against the masks. I realize certain individuals need it, right? There are certain people who are not healthy. There are certain people who need to be safe of exposure. I also want to point out, which I find very interesting, is that on the executive order, which you did pull up from Murphy, he did say, individuals seeking a medical exemption from mask wearing, has certain exceptions outlined in Executive Order number 251. Let me go to that. It says, when doing so would inhibit the individual's health. So the district has made it clear that if you get a letter from the doctor, then it goes to the nurse or the doctor of the district. Okay, so my question is this. If the executive order from Murphy is saying that a letter from the doctor is sufficient, why is it being reviewed by the district, right? Question number one. And if it gets denied by the district, then are you defying the mandate by the governor? And if you are defying the mandate by the governor, why can't we defy the mask optional by the governor? So that's just a question. I also have a list. I don't know how I am on time. I'm sorry if I'm
Well
taking
over,
up.
but that's okay.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I do actually have a few questions about some of the items that were addressed, just because I'm curious, but I can come back if that's
Well, let's see if someone else has a.
okay. All right. Thank you.
Does anyone else? Okay.
My name is Kate Flannery. I'm on Windsor Avenue. Couple questions for Mr. Klaus, and I know that you guys can't necessarily address it. I just wanted to, and I'm glad that I actually made it in person today. It's always good to have different perspectives being given, and I know that you guys have spent an enormous amount of effort listening to all of us from the community, and so really it's eye-opening to see different perspectives. The one question that I had in regards to the plan that you revealed tonight was in some of the details about the actual indoor lunches, if the weather doesn't allow for us to have the children in there. And I just didn't want to spend too much time laboring over the fact that we do have this mandate over the masks. And from my perspective, I actually am very grateful for the changes that we've had to make, because we all understand that the kids absolutely have to be in school. And, you guys all know of my concerns about being able to get the kids in masks without some sort of protective measure in place. So that was just really one question / clarification I have. And if I could also take a moment to just speak to the board, I really wanted to thank Adam for his really his work and everything he's done. I think that you guys all remember the first time I came here, pointing fingers at Adam, screaming, making very heartened speech, and I think I did that more than once. I know that every time I show up here, everybody sort of tenses up, and I just know, okay, and you guys don't have to, confirm nor deny. But we have spent the last few years disagreeing and agreeing and working over so many issues for our children. And I know that we all have just so many parents who are so passionate of our children. And it's just, it can't be easy being on that side. And I know, Adam, that you shared your story. You know what I do for a living. So I see this on the day to day, and I could not understand how you could do what you could do, listen to all my BS and complaints and everything, at the meeting, off the meeting space, and still be able to do what you did for us. And I really wanted to just thank you for everything you've done, because I think you are leaving an incredible legacy for our community. So thank you.
Thanks, Ken.
Just real quick, my name is Rich Super on roads. I really couldn't have done any better justice than the lady before, that woman. So I would love to have those answers sent to me as well, too, the questions that she has. I did have a question also, which you probably can't answer tonight. What happens to us as a district if you decided to go against the mandate? Do we lose funding? So that was one question that I had. Also, getting back to the little, I think we called it like the Chosky thing, you give away the, is that for is that for inhibiting use of recreational drugs, or I'm just trying to figure out what that looks like. That's all I'm just trying to ask. So if you could.
Sure, I would recommend attending the next municipal alliance meeting,
Okay.
because that's really not a district issue. That's
Gotcha,
more
okay.
municipal.
I just thought that you were providing the funding for.
No, the municipal alliances, which. is
Okay,
our
and then
commission.
they'll give it to you to pass out to the kids, or how does that work?
No, they would buy it themselves.
Okay, that's all on them. Okay, all right, that's all I wanted to know. All right, thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch your last name, sir.
It's Super, SUPER,
Thank you.
and it's roads.
I had that, thank you.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. Sean Sweeney, HEA co-president with Rachel, and I live at Rabbit Court. So we just want to take a minute and say thank you to Adam. We know that it takes a lot of time away from family and friends. We know that it is a great paying job to be on the board. So we wanted to say thank you and appreciate all the time that you did. Work with us, help us to create, like you said, a wonderful environment here in Haddonfield. And like I said, I think we've really laid the groundwork to move forward in a really positive direction. And that was a lot to do with your help. So we wanted to say thank you.
Thanks.
Tracy Matoso, I live in Deptford. As the senior administrator present, we just wanted to make sure that we thank you, Adam, for all that you've done for us. And Sue and Tom, it's very unique, our district, when we work so closely with our families, our members of our Board of Education, we work with your children. So we want to make sure that you know that we will do the best by your children, because so closely with them for you, as well as with our colleagues in the HEA. So on behalf of the administration, we thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll get to more serious ones, but I should quit more often. Yeah. Monica, did you have other questions? Because we want to make sure we document the questions you have.
here. So the pilot math program, so obviously you're aware my oldest son is in elementary. I'm clearly a concerned parent. He is good in math, but now I'm worried, like, is one math not as good as the other? Or is he gonna be learning a different math from other classes? Are they all different assignments? So I just kind of wanted to understand what actually makes each class or each structure different from each other. That's kind of like, okay. And then I also wanted to ask, this is kind of, it wasn't touched upon at all at the BOE, but back to the whole mask thing. So last year there were breaks during the day where the kids would go outside. I think it was like 10 or 15 minutes. Is that also going to be enrolled this year for the elementary students? And then my child goes to Central. Those swings are missing, and I don't know why there's no swings. Does anybody, or could somebody let me know if those are ever gonna come back? Or, and that was actually it. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, good.
No, the swing.
Good evening, my name is Darcy Durham. I've been on everything. We had a few questions, but first I'd like to thank everybody here for serving our kids. Certainly, I know this is a rough go for all of us parents, as well as, you know, you all being on the Board of Ed. Teachers, I never been more appreciative of all of you. Last year was a crazy year for all of us, those of us that never desired to do, you know, have their hand in homeschooling. We got a little taste of it, and it certainly wasn't for me. So thank you all for being with me. With that being said, I just have a few questions. They're kind of a little bit sporadic, but I just have, you know, have no answers. So getting back to the pool testing, is there any idea when you might have an idea of when that could be coming into play if you decide to do it? The next portion of that is, from what I read from what you sent out today, it looks like it's going to be a volunteer basis, but it looks like it would be geared towards kids that are not vaccinated. Didn't know if that is correct or not correct. And if for any reason, so I have to take my glasses on and off to see all and then see my reading. Would there be any punishment penalty if, you know, as parents didn't want the testing? I have precluded my daughter from testing for the most part. She's been tested twice, but there's been a few other occasions where she was, you know, in close contact. We just kept her home, that kind of thing. We don't want to undergo that testing. There's cancer-causing agents on those nasal swabs. So we're trying to eliminate a lot of that. We're trying to keep as healthy as we can, all of us, obviously. So that was another part of that question with pool testing. Will the test will be sent out to a lab, I'm assuming, and what cycle will they be running those tests at? A lot of the tests are run at high cycles. You find COVID in those high cycle run tests. 20 or so to, I believe, 24, you know, it's a clear test. So I just was curious about that. Excuse me. One of the things that my understanding is that the NJEA did some training with the teachers in regards to discussing vaccination. I don't know if that's correct, but it's something that I've been hearing about, and I did read a little blurb that was put out by the NJEA that they were going to be doing some kind of training. I don't know if that's held or not with our teachers. Just want to find out if there's going to be a point in time where vaccination is discussed with our kids. COVID vaccination specifically. I'm not talking about in science class. We talk about vaccinations and how that has helped in the past and, you know, the future and how all that works. But I'm talking specifically about discussing with our kids during the school day about the pros, cons, whatever of vaccination. So, and I think I just have one more question. ESSER grant money that this district has received, does anybody have an idea of how much money has been received to date on that? And the mandates, as far as they go with mask wearing at school, is that linked specifically to that funding? And if we go against any kind of mandates, or if we make masks optional, would we have to repay that back to the state? Sorry, I threw a ton of questions at you,
No, that's okay.
but just trying to figure it all out.
Sure.
Can I clarify one question
Of
you asked,
course.
just so they get the right answer?
Of
When you
course.
talk about education, about vaccination, is it specifically about COVID-19
Yes,
vaccination?
exactly, yes.
Oh,
I'm not
okay.
talking about like in science class, because I know, I remember being in science class and we discussed things like polio and all of that. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about
Okay.
kind of from the health standpoint of where we are basically in the world with COVID. I'm kind of getting at the fact that,
You're asking for them to encourage some. people
well,
over
yeah, I'm,
anti-vaccination.
you know, there's some things that I think are held between parents, their
Right, sure.
children, excuse me, and their doctors. There's some things that I think that the school obviously does much better than I'll ever do, the teachers and everything. So, but in that case, I think those are personal things that should be discussed between parents, children, and their children's doctor. So, yes. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carson. Okay, any others? All right, well, thank you. Very good question.
I would like to say,
Oh, yeah, so, yeah,
But that-
when we close.
we close,
We're
okay,
closed.
we close off, and I'll say, I'll take the, I think we did.
No, we're gonna close public comments,
Okay.
and you're welcome to
All
make
right.
any comments you would like. You're the
I
superintendent.
could resign.
Yeah, that's true. Now you can say whatever you like.
All right, good.
No.
You got, did you close public comment?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. We've done this before. So I have to say, you know, sitting in my seat, which is, which relies very greatly on the 9 people sitting around it. You know, and Sue and Tom are both wonderful. I think you know that would be greatly missed. I know that Tom will be with us for a little bit longer, and Sue will, she has, her resignation was effective yesterday, so we won't see her anymore. Both wonderful people, both great board members, both brought so much to the table. But I think with both of them, and Sue's a really perfect example. She had this knowledge of how school facilities work. It's rare, right? She does this for a living. She works for the Department of Ed. And what a valuable asset, but really pales in the comparison that she cared about kids, she cared about teachers, she cared about education. And so I think when people talk about Sue, or they talk about Tom, and you know, he did a lot of work with the negotiations, they might think of that area of expertise that they were doing, but ultimately, when you thought about how they're public to the board members, it was about children in school and about teachers supporting them. And that's really what they brought to the table, well beyond those other things. Adam stepping down is going to be, I mean, if you were a superintendent,
I want to say something about Susan.
yes, go ahead.
Susan, I don't know, Susan served for, what was it, 10 years? She served 10 years. That $35 million bond referendum and construction project, he was an essential part of the whole process. So you were still at high school at that time. And there's some of the stuff she did was able to do, save us a fortune. She was able to foresee issues. She's not here. It's a shame she's not here, because she really just did a tremendous job. And I can't even remember half of the things, except for the fact that she spent as much time as a full-time employee working with the architect and the construction managers and then the business administrator. It was just an enormous amount of time. So she's slipping away from us, but she saved us on actual, including loving the children. She actually saved us a ton of time and money. So I don't know. I want to say that.
Well, you say this time, she also, you know, cares, but that's the reason why you do it. And if you're a superintendent sitting in my seat at any of the school districts, and you see a massive turnover, right? So it's nearly half the board we're talking about by January, they need a different board. It's a place where I someone in my seat might be concerned, or might be nervous, might be, oh my God, what's gonna happen? This is a whole lot of, I have none of that. As Adam pointed out, like maybe he gave the example earlier about walking the code, this is easy. His leadership, I believe, I know, has set this board up for long-term success. And I'm confident that we are going to move forward in a very positive, productive fashion as a board. A lot of that goes to the leadership, Adam and Dave, their leadership over the years. I know a better superintendent because of dealing with these two guys to the left of me over the last couple of years. After last year, we've had great discussions. We've had arguments that almost ended in violence. We've had, everything in between those things. As much as Adam can be a fiery, high-tempered guy, I can be a petulant 7-year-old. So sometimes those people come together. It's interesting conversations, but I always thought I benefited from every single one of them. I would like to, I wish Tom and Susan were here to thank them, and I will see Tom again, thank him, and Susan hopefully will come back and visit with us. But I also want to thank you, Adam, personally, for being such a good friend and a good leader. I wasn't going to say anything, other people said nice stuff about it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, let's go through the business this evening. We have items for approval. We're going to start with 10 governance. We're going to accept our monthly suspension, HIV, vandalism, and violence report. We're going to approve 3 policies for first reading. We are going to approve 18 policies for the second reading. Adam, I gave a motion. Linda and Jamie beat Dave. Questions, conversation?
Ms. Paoli,
Yes.
Ms. Hogarth,
Yes.
Mr. Benford,
Yes.
Vice President Seidel,
Yes.
Ms. Crooked.
Yes.
President Sangillo.
Yes. All right, curriculum and special ed, we're approving field trips, conferences, travel, overnight field trips. We're approving district-wide testing. We're approving an independent evaluation rates. We're approving vocational planning for 3 hours a week for Kate Serrano. We're approving Martin G. Brooks for educational professional learning services. There's an agreement between Christine Heimbach and the Board of Ed for summer learning acceleration program. We're resolving to approve an agreement between Marianne Joseph and the Board of Ed for professional development. We're resolving between the Cooper Reading Center and the Board of Ed, the Real Center and the Board of Ed to provide homebound instructions for a specific student, between Yale School and the Board of Ed for another specific student. We have one more specific student with Mill Creek. We have Gloucester County Special Services for deaf consultation services, resolving between TCNJ and the Board of Ed for a specific student. And the County Sherwood Educational Evaluations and the Board of Ed for learning evaluations. The Real Center to provide homebound instruction for 2 students. Family First and RDI to provide services to Christ the King School. For CCESC, we're using a speech pathologist. We have 5 students using the Yale School for ESY. We're approving the purchase of the Math K-5 program and algebra and geometry textbooks, materials, and digital support programs for the following year. We're approving the DMOS math curriculum for grades 6 and 8, including coaching. We're resolving to approve investigations math program and digital supports at no cost to the district. We're resolving to approve the purchase of Singapore math textbooks and materials for all the elementary schools. We're resolving to approve purchase of Archive 3000 for the middle school online development services, overnight athletic trips. Veronica Clark is volunteer athletic trainer, and Jamie Galazniak as part of a residency program in sports therapy certification. Resolving between the Gloucester County Special Services, provide teach to a deaf student at Christ the King School, and resolving between the Gloucester County Special Services and Haddonfield to provide a teacher with deaf consultant services to a specific student. Can I get a motion on 13?
Just to have you stop reading. Yes, I'll give a motion.
Motion on 11, right?
I'm sorry, I said 13. You're right. Motion on 11.
Second.
Who said it?
I said it in the window, so.
Okay. Any questions? Mike?
Ms. Paoli?
Yes.
Ms. Hoagirl?
Yes.
Mr. Benford?
Yes.
Vice President Seidel?
Yes.
Ms. Crooked?
Yes.
President Sandilli?
Yes. Okay, personnel, we are approving new personnel transfers, salary upgrades, mentoring, extracurricular, coaching appointments, leaves of absences, and resignations. We are extending the ESY hours for students with an IEP mandate. We're resolving to approve Sanchez as a speech therapist for the ESY program, and Deanna O'Connor for speech therapy, Jennifer Wilson as a supplemental instruction for a specific student. 3 hours of curriculum writing from Mrs. Murphy. Verdure, Sharon Verdure for 48 hours of instruction at the Summer Learning Acceleration Program. We're resolving to have 6 teachers for the Summer Acceleration Program, 6 teachers. We're approving 4 teachers to work on the development of special education schedule. We are resolving to approve teachers for the 2021 Learning Acceleration Program, 2 teachers. And we're resolving to approve an increase in hours for Adam Harlan, an HMHS teacher, from 0.6 to 0.8. We get a motion on 12. Linda, David, any discussion?
I just wanted to say that, I wish Dana Reagan well, I'm starting to see her go, but, she was just a fantastic nurse. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to comment on that, because she was amazing.
Yeah, that's a good lookout. Thank you, Dana. Miss her. She did a lot of work in.
Okay.
Oh, yes. Any other questions, comments? Okay, Mike?
Ms. Hoagirl?
Yes.
Mr. Benford?
Yes.
Vice President Seidel?
Yes.
Ms. Crooked?
Yes.
Ms. Paoli?
Yes.
President Sandilli?
Yes. Okay, 13, business and finance recommendations. We're doing tuition reimbursement for Michelle Frazier. Also tuition reimbursement for Dan Licata. Approving the food service agreement between the Board of Education and Haddonfield Friends School, resolving educational travel tours and Haddonfield Board of Ed for the senior class trip. We're approving the standard operations procedures and internal controls. We're approving the manual purchase, the purchasing manual, sorry, for the next school year. We're submitting to the IDEA grant application. We're submitting to the ESEA grant application. Paying our bills, there's some budget transfers. We're approving the board secretary's report and the cash summary report. Can we get a motion?
Second.
Junior Dave. Any discussion?
I just have to say, I'm so happy to see that Disney trip back on.
Oh, yeah.
Disney trip is on.
Good. It's on the agenda for approval.
Dan, you learned a lot in those, that continuing education? Come up and give us a half-an-hour presentation on finer points. Any other questions, comments?
Other than organizational dynamics, you learn from a very high functioning board. If I do say so myself.
All right, Mike.
Mr. Benford?
Yes.
Vice President Seidel?
Yes.
Ms. Crooked?
Yes.
Ms. Paoli?
Yes.
Ms. Hoagirl?
Yes.
President Sandilli?
Yes. Okay, we got 14, approval of the meeting minutes for the regular meeting July 15th in the exec session. Motion? Motion. Oh, Justin's in.
Second.
David,
Let's move on.
um, discussion? Mike?
Vice President Seidel,
Yes.
Ms. Brookett?
Yes.
Ms. Paoli?
Yes.
Ms. Hoagirtle?
Yes.
Mr. Benford?
Yes.
President Sandillo?
Yes. All right, so, I guess before we do it, well, let's do it. Items for future consideration, before we do a reorg? No, then we'll do a reorg. So.
We're looking for two.
Yeah, we're looking for president,
Yeah.
vice president.
You know, I wasn't kidding when I said the fireman for a fiery Italian, because I see myself more as Tom Hagen to Vito Corleone. Or Lefty to Pancho. You know, thanks, Merle Haggard. Just thinking that song in my head all night. You know, that's my ride and die. And I really do think Chuck, starting this new school year, looking for new board leadership, I'm here. I have another year left on my term. I'm here to help. As you said, it's for the children. I really do believe it's also for the citizens. You know, when somebody comes up and speaks, sometimes I agree. I don't think they understand they address 9 individuals, not one entity. And as long as I can give my opinion and share my counsel to new leadership, I would feel better knowing that I'm leaving the district in good hands, and really leaving Chuck without holding the bag. So I think tonight we should be looking for a new board leadership altogether.
Okay, so we'll look for nominations tonight. Nominations for president and vice president. And not like president, I'd like to nominate Jamie Brockett for president. I think she would serve us very well. She'll accept.
I would second that nomination.
All right. Any other nominations for president? Not hearing any. We have our new leader. Congratulations,
Mr.
Jamie.
Shammy?
I would like to nominate Linda Hertzgerl.
Yeah, I don't know who that is.
Oscar. It's hard as a mask, but it doesn't really matter. If there's one thing I butchered, worse than lyrics to songs, it's people's names. And from a recommendation for school, I'm sure it's very difficult. There's a product called Name Coach that installs into Canvas that allows students to record their own. Maybe something for future consideration.
You just played at graduation time. You have your own.
Who's seconding?
Second for Linda?
Second for Linda?
Second.
Justin? All right. Any other nominations for vice president? Just to make it interesting, I'd like to nominate nobody. It's terrible.
Okay, Richard Pryor, Bristol Mills.
Congratulations. We've got a new slate. So, any no longer is your meeting to close. Please take the seat. We move over, you move in. Thank you. Congratulations. Well, this is gonna be good work. We'll do good work. Come on, get in there and close it up.
Yeah. So I'm not nearly as charming as Adam and never will be, so I have right now what I want to say. I'd just like to take a moment to thank everyone on the board for your support and dedication to the district. Those moving on either now or in January have volunteered countless hours to move us forward and toward our goals. Your expertise and insight can't be understated. It is that forward momentum that'll drive us through this transition. I'd like to especially thank Adam and Dave for their willingness to offer Linda and I the opportunity to serve in the positions of vice president and president while they're still in office. It's a testament to their commitment to the district that they want nothing more than to see us be successful now and in the future. We're fortunate to have their continued guidance. To Adam, we can't thank you enough for your years of leadership as president of the board. I knew Adam before he served on the board and was his treasurer for his first campaign. His sincere enthusiasm and dedication to do what's right for the district has always inspired me. One thing I learned from Adam early on after I joined the board was the importance of viewing an issue from all sides and entertaining all aspects of a decision. On more than one occasion, I called him to discuss an issue we found ourselves on different sides of. After debating the issue back and forth, and this seems to be the common theme, hitting a few heated moments in our conversation, we'd end the conversation on opposite sides still, but having flipped our positions. He'd be on my original side and I'd be on his. But it was the process of listening to one another and vetting our thoughts that helped to create the best possible outcome for everyone. He taught me how important it is to be a flexible thinker. I can't imagine a more dedicated leader and president, and I feel very lucky to have him mentoring me in this new role. Again, thank you to our outgoing members. It can be a challenge having so many board members leaving in a short period of time, but in every challenge, there's an opportunity for growth. As you've heard the district discuss many times over the past few years, we want truly to instill a growth mindset in students so that challenges are seen as opportunity. And here we have an opportunity to lead by example. While losing many experienced board members, we are gaining the chance to become even stronger through the process. Because of the hard work of this board, we've updated policies, created a strategic plan, and secured administrators whom we have tremendous faith in. These serve as our compass moving forward as new members are elected and appointed. And to our incoming board candidates, you submitted not knowing you'd be uncontested, and that's a testament to your willingness to serve, and we're excited to have you join us. New members offer fresh perspectives the district faces and renewed enthusiasm for the important role the school district plays in our community. Our community is our biggest asset as a district, and we've never before, as far as I can remember, had so much community participation on district committees. We are a strong district because of community support and will no doubt become stronger. Lastly, I'd like to thank our entire administrative team and Chuck, who's a strong leader with a big heart. I'm grateful they've established a culture of communication and growth among district leaders, teachers, staff, students, and parents. To say the last year and a half has been a difficult one is an understatement. We've all suffered in ways we can't quite put into words. Chuck has kept us on a clear path forward when no one could predict what would happen next. And everyone involved has remained steadfast and focused on our students, which is why we're all here. I'm proud of how far we've come in such a difficult time, and I feel fortunate to be a part of where we're headed.
Yeah, yes.
Motion to close.
Motion.
Second. All right,